We were on the lunch break on the second day of questioning of the undercover police officer Carlo Soracchi, who, using the cover name Carlo Neri, infiltrated the Socialist Party, No Platform, and some other anti-fascist groups. He deceived 3 women into intimate sexual relationships, including Lindsay and Donna, who we heard from last week. I'm joined by Kate Wilson from Police Spies Out of Lives. Carlo, this morning, we started off with more details about the deceptive sexual relationship he had with Lindsay. Then we went through a bunch of his reports from some of the anti-fascist activity he got into, and now we've started looking at his deceptive sexual relationship with Donna. Yeah. What have you made of what he's had to say?
I mean, my overwhelming impression of him, and of course, you know, these guys are professional actors and liars, but my overwhelming impression of him is he's a bit thick. Like
Lindsay characterized it as him playing the character of an honest fool.
Yeah, like he's kind of and you know there's an unpleasantness there. So and there's a kind of, you occasionally see the sort of duplicitousness. I was really struck when he was talking about Lindsay in the relationship, that he was asked if he's ever apologized. He said not directly, and then he was asked if there was anything he wanted to say. And then he did apologize, but he didn't say her name.
No, he apologized for these relationships with these people.
Yeah, yes, it was very mealy mouthed, and you kind of got that was kind of where the sort of honest fool thing slips a little bit. He's been kind of playing the sympathy card a little bit around the breakup of his marriage and the death of his mother.
He's been playing them very hard, in fact.
Yes. And I suspect actually does feel quite sorry for himself around all this. I think quite a few of them feel quite sorry for themselves around all this. They don't feel that they've done anything wrong. And I mean, you know, the classic example being Jim Boyling saying, well, I feel like I'm a defendant up here, so obviously I did do something wrong. As though, you know, as though the only reason why he thinks he did anything wrong is because he's being made to pay for it now.
I mean, made to pay for it. Asked some questions. I mean, really, like made to pay for it is, you know, I mean, it's
an overstatement.
Yeah.
But yes, Soracchi.
I mean, the first thing he said when it was put to him was, "Why did you enter into a sexual relationship with Donna McLean?" He said, "I was vulnerable."
Yes,
that was his first line. Was this that he was somehow vulnerable?
Yeah. And there's this sense, and it came out around both relationships, of that, you know, he was seeking solace. And, I mean, he actually he claimed around the relationship with Lindsay that the reason why he got into the relationship was because his marriage was on the rocks, and he needed some sort of distraction and comfort from that.
A pleasant distraction.
Yes. But then pointed out that actually at the point where he got into that relationship, his marriage wasn't on the rocks, and it wasn't until right near the end that he started to have problems in his marriage. So that was just completely untrue. But you do get and this is, I mean, it's not the first time this idea that, you know, these officers were entering into these relationships for a bit of comfort, for somebody to look after them. I mean, it's just gross.
Yeah, I mean, I think Barr did a very good job of like listing all the different places that he could have found solace. He said, "Do you find solace from your wife?" And it's like, well, she tried, but I wanted to get back to my role as an undercover officer. And they said, "Well, did you speak to your managers?" "Oh, yes, I spoke to my managers." "What did you say to them?" "Oh, I was very keen to get back to my role as an undercover officer." I mean, and he said, "Well, did you tell them that that you were there was problems with your marriage?" "Oh no, I wouldn't say that. They might not have let me go back to my role as an undercover officer."
Yeah, and I think, I mean, there's a few things there. I mean, I think Barr actually did quite a good job of bringing out this thing, and Soracchi was kind of saying, well, this was so far from my real life. This was not my real life. And this all goes back to what Charlotte Kilroy said in the opening statement, I think to Tranche 2, about the just the dystopian psychos that are created by this, giving them this
dark playground.
Yes.
Yeah, the dark playground, which, I mean, every time it gives me chills just thinking about it. But yeah, it really is. I mean, I think she did that Snapchat. It comes back to my mind over and over again whenever they're being questioned, because it really does feel that's exactly what it's like. You know, it was put to him, you know, because it was away from your real life, you felt that you could do anything to a member of the opposite sex without any consequence.
Yes.
And he's like, well, I mean, I wouldn't say I could do anything, but certainly it was very far away from my real life. Like, I was like, yeah, I do.
And and he's kind of, I find it a bit odd that he answers all of these questions in more or less the same tone.
Mm.
So, you know, he will use the same tone for saying, I can't remember, or even, I don't believe that happened, I dispute that, as he will use for saying the wrongs I have committed in my life come back to, I mean, you know, I can't even say that without putting more kind of drama or emotion into it.
Right.
But he really does deliver it all in the same way. So, you know, he's asked, you know, so he's told, you know, Lindsay feels that you used her sexually. You know, you can see why she would feel that. And he says, oh, yes, I can see that. And then he says, so, and you did use her sexually? And he's like, yes, I did. And it's all delivered in this same time. It feels like the reality of it really isn't hitting home, that there's a kind of disconnect there. And I think it all comes back down to that, what is your real life and what is not. And so they're able to talk about it because it's just another fiction.
Yes, yeah. I think that's very true. I think because it part of it is you think, oh, well, they're playing a role. I mean, he's playing this role. He's got this way of like approaching it, but it feels like it's deeper than that. It feels like it's you know it's not like he's talking about things that he actually did. It feels like it's something that it was always part of his job, and you know it was out there in this fake world.
Yes, and this. I don't know. I mean, we come back to it over and over again, but you do see like they all have a slightly different approach. I mean, I'm thinking Jenna, I'm thinking Boylan, I'm thinking Soracchi, because these are some of the most unpleasant officers in terms of abuse of women that we've heard from in this tranche. They all have had quite a different persona and different approach to it, but that underlying disconnect between, you know, what they actually did, and also the feeling sorry for themselves. It comes up so often.
It really does, yeah. Yeah, it's a big part of their like their whole sort of their narrative of what happened is that, like, well, I was in a terribly bad space, and actually this woman really helped me out and made me feel better about the things that I was doing.
Yes, and there's an entitlement there. There's a this, and it's where it comes down to something that I think, you know, the male patriarchal entitlement is so deeply ingrained that they don't even see that as some kind of use or abuse of women. Like, that's what women are for, as far as they're concerned, and that makes it okay. It's like the fact that they sought comfort in it is an excuse somehow for the fact that they did it, and I find that really winds me up.
Yeah, one of the things that he also said quite a lot when it was kind of put to him that he was going to great lengths to to insert himself into the lives of the women that he deceived into sex, you know, and like connecting with them emotionally, meeting their friends and family, making himself available for all aspects of their lives. He said, well, that was my role. I was there to get close to people and to further my legend. And it's like, but you know, he wasn't reporting on these people.
Yeah.
So like, why was he doing it in those spheres as well?
I mean, this idea of furthering his legend, he takes it to incredible lengths. I mean, it was yesterday that he talked about the trips to Italy, but apparently, in the interests of furthering his legend, he made multiple trips to Italy, often on his own, that were to meet with, on behalf of the Socialist Party, to meet with Italian activists. And like, I mean, he's kind of dug himself a bit of a hole there, I think, because he was saying that stuff in order to justify what was actually an all expenses paid romantic weekend in Venice with the woman that he was deceiving into a sexual relationship with Lindsay. But he's kind of tried to portray that as, well, you know, this was really important for my legend building because I was the Socialist Party's representative in Italy, essentially.
Within like less than a year of being a member of the Socialist Party, which, I mean, does not stack up with Trotskyism.
Well, it's either a lie.
Yeah, maybe.
Or if it were true, or even if he thought it were true. And I mean, I've seen this a little bit with some of like Mark Kennedy's international deployments. And you see like reports from meetings where it's, you know, this group has decided that Mark Stone will build links with activists in Norway, and it's like, I can totally see how that came about. Like Mark Stone says to the meeting, hey, I've got friends in Norway I could talk to if you like. And the meeting goes, yeah, all right, whatever. And that turns into an intelligence report in which, he goes back to his handlers and said, they've tasked me with making links with Norway. So now I need an all expenses paid trip to Norway. And I can kind of see the same thing happening in the Socialist Party, where Soracchi's like, I speak Italian. I've got friends in Italy. And they're like, well, yeah, sure. Talk to them, whatever. But he portrays it as he was going out to Italy and representing the Socialist Party, which, if it were true, means that, and when he says there were no other activists present, it was just him. So essentially, a serving British police officer is going to Italy and pretending to be a member of the Socialist Party and representing the Socialist Party's interests, even though his job is actually to kind of spy on them and undermine them. I mean, the political implications and the Article 11 right to freedom of association and right to politically organise implications of that are incredible. And he just obviously has no awareness of that at all and thinks that this is a good excuse to cover up the fact that he went on an all expenses paid romantic weekend. And it's like, if that is the extent of their understanding of kind of the implications of their political interference in our rights to organise, then it's not surprising that the unit, just the mission creep, went so far, because he thinks that that's a good excuse.
Yeah, he does. I mean, I get the impression it's an excuse that he made up on the spot, whilst desperately thrashing around for reasons why this trip to Venice wasn't just an all expenses romantic trip.
That is also possible, but he has referred to it in his witness statement, and he has referred to it. I mean, it does appear as well, I believe, in some of the reporting where he talks, but I'm not sure. I mean, we get the material so late that it's very hard to be on top of what is in the reporting beyond what you actually hear in the hearing room.
And we saw a couple more reports. I mean, one which I thought was quite amusing was where Barr was having to educate Carlo Soracchi about the finer points of Trotsky politics and squadism, and the fact that Dan Gilman would not have been in making a speech at Socialism 2001 advocating for squadism, and that would be absolutely ridiculous. And he was like, yes, he was. And it's like, well, this is just this just does not add up. It's amazing how these. I mean, he said, "Well, I'm not a Trotskyist." He's like, "No, but you infiltrated them for 5.5 years professionally,
and you managed to come out of that with no understanding of the politics at all. What were you doing
whatsoever?" And I mean, we see this time and again. These undercover officers infiltrate groups, and we don't even have a cursory understanding. I mean, very few. I mean, I'm trying to think of any. I mean, Creamer, I guess, had an idea about what the politics were, but any of them really. It's pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that goes to the fact that SDS reporting, they weren't really looking for an understanding of the politics. They weren't looking for an understanding of the groups. They were looking for intelligence and reporting that would justify the continuation of the units. So they were looking for particular things, and it doesn't matter whether those things chime with the reality of what was going on. Like that's never what it was about. Actually understanding, beyond not standing out badly enough to get caught, the need to understand what was really going on in these political groups, and it just basically shows up the ridiculousness of what they call intelligence, I guess.
I mean, and that really comes across very strongly with Carlo Soracchi, because I mean, so many of his reports, when he's asked where did this intelligence come from, he says, "Oh, it was something that was said to me after the event in a social setting," or "It's something I heard in the pub. I was in the pub. This was said." I mean, it seems very much like his entire strategy was to be at the center of a social scene, a really key part of that social scene, really full of bonhomie, throwing parties, having people around for the homemade booze that he made, being very connected to people on that partying level, and then reporting back the things that he heard, reporting back with the leaflets he picked up that other people had given him, not actually being there, not actually being part of any of the proper meetings. Like, even when he's on the demonstrations, he talks and the actions, he talks about kind of hanging back with those he knows won't get too involved, and then reporting on what he hears in the car drive home from the other people who did get more involved in things. Or in the pub later on after they've had five or six pints, and then what they're saying.
He's been asked a couple of times today, about incidents that happened on anti-fascist demonstrations, and he was asked whether he witnessed it, and his response always seems to be, well, I saw it from a distance, and sometimes like an incredibly large distance to the point where it's barely credible that he saw it at all, and he probably didn't, because he is reporting these conversations from the pub afterwards.
I mean, there was one from yesterday where he was, we know he was inside the cordon on Oxford Street on May Day 2001, and he's talking about an incident that happened on the other side of the buildings from where that was. And he said, I can see it from a distance. What, through a building?
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of glass, but you can see it all the way through. I mean, it's just, it's a nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, it really feels like, I mean, one of the things that I really felt about Michael Jacobs, who was the undercover officer who infiltrated the group I was a part of, was one of the things where I was a bit skeptical that he could be, was that he didn't seem that interested. He wasn't that involved. He was always in the pub afterwards, but he wasn't necessarily involved in everything. But this seems to be part of their strategy.
Yeah.
Is like, well, you're not raising too many suspicions because you're not asking loads of questions, being everywhere.
Yeah.
You're just the guy who's getting around in, who's hanging out afterwards, who's
and I mean, I've seen some quite interesting. I mean, so once we get to Jacobs and Kennedy and the MPOIU, you get this reporting chain, which we're hearing about in these hearings, where we look at the intelligence reports and that officers are asked pointed questions about what's written in the intelligence reports, and the most common answer we're getting is, "Oh, I didn't write that.
Yes,
I would have just talked to my handler, or I would have just talked to the back office, and somebody else wrote the report. They decided what would go in." And it's been quite refreshing that David Barr has been interjecting and saying, "Well, it actually says source comment here, so that is you."
Right.
But yeah, when we get to the MPOIU, you actually see that in action. Well, certainly in the case of Kennedy, but I think some of the others as well, where they're keeping these police notebooks or they're keeping these contact logs and kind of recording the intelligence in real time, which as logs, which then get converted into intelligence reports where it's felt to be relevant. And there's some very revealing stuff in Kennedy's contact logs, which basically say so-and-so said this. He's really mouthy when he's drunk, which is great for us. And that turns into an intelligence report where, so somebody's got drunk saying, "Oh, we should blow up the bloody House of Commons. They're all bastards, a lot of them." And then that has turned into an intelligence report that says so-and-so has been discussing the possibility of blowing up the House of Commons. And from the contact logs that the police are well aware that that's just, drunken shit talking. But it's useful for them. It's what they want the intelligence reports to be saying, and so they just report it, technically accurately. So and so had a conversation about this, but lunch delivery is making noise in the background.
Our lunch has been delivered. I mean, just before we wrap up, because I am quite hungry. There's still a huge amount to go in terms of the question of Carlo Soracchi. I mean, he is booked in until Thursday, and we've just got really the beginning of the relationship with Donna.
And they have said that he's likely to continue sitting on Thursday.
Yes.
We've had that.
Yeah. Because once again we had a breach this morning, which always delays things. There's no explanation when the breaches happen. So it felt maybe like an early finish on the lunch break. And we've had a couple of comments to them. First one: I hope that continues to embarrass Carlo as he's questioned. It's a public relations disaster for the SDS. Good. Yeah, I think he really is. I mean, you can only imagine, obviously, when we come back for phase 3 of the hearings at the in June, July, we're going to be hearing from the managers, and I would imagine they're watching this with their head in their hands.
Yes. I think there's probably a lot of head holding and head shaking going on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another one. Building my legend equals living out my wild fantasies and being handsomely financed for it. I mean, that literally seems to be what it was.
We're still waiting for Rentbookgate to come up
in
the questioning.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody's got any questions, please leave them in the comments. I mean, we are going to wrap up now, but we'll be doing more of these videos throughout the day. Please like and share the videos. I noticed when I used to ask all the time, we got loads of people liking it. I've stopped asking all the time, and now it's not really happening. So, I mean, please, I know I hate asking, but it makes a huge difference to how many people watch these. We'll be back again this afternoon. Is there anything particular you're looking forward to hearing about?
I'm interested to hear his account of. I've just been going through Lois Austin's evidence from last week about the Oxford Circus kettling case. I think there's a lot of big questions around that to do with you know, this is the police using an undercover officer to brief their legal team in order to gain litigation advantage in a civil claim against the Metropolitan Police. It was a very significant civil claim because it really set the tone for public order policing for years to come, I think. And so, yeah, I think that's quite an important bit of evidence that's probably not going to get as much coverage as it should. And Rent Book Gate, I just want that to be put to him.
I'm looking forward to the questions about New Year's Eve 2002. Where Carlo Soracchi proposed to Donna McLean, and then quickly turned to his target group and said, you know, there's a fascist bookshop around the corner. Maybe someone should go and firebomb it. And the fallout from that, which should be interesting.
Yes, I mean, it should be said that my understanding is that he's claimed he wasn't even there at New Year's.
Yes, that is his current. Yeah.
So that's his current position. It'll be interesting to see if that changes in the face of overwhelming evidence. I wonder if there's even photos.
I mean, I would imagine there's going to be a fair bit. All right, thanks for joining us. We'll be back again this afternoon. Please join us then and share any of this stuff that you're able to. Bye for now.